Om Kalika Baraprasadam Mande Paramadhimantang Vivida Tattva Shastragyang Mahati Tapashinang Vaikuntha Dhama Drishti Tvang Stavamrita Pradainam Nita Moha Purna Jyoting Abheda Jnana Sampannam Ashankatapta Jivebho Shantidayaka Mahantam Sri Ramakrishna Parshadang Sri Abhedananda Swaminam Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We offer our salutation to Swami Abhedananda, who was of a versatile genius. His familiarity with a wide range of Eastern and Western thought and philosophy was astounding. He alludes to his vision of all the divine incarnation in their merging in one into the radiant form of the Master. And the Master's remarks on healing about it, that the Swami had a Vaikuntha darshan. Numberless people, scorched by the fire of the world and worldliness, were blessed with the peace by him. That Swami Abhedananda I salute again and again. Om peace, peace, peace be unto us all. So today we are making this as our talk focused on Swami Abhedananda, one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. We not talk much about other direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who were extraordinarily luminous in their own dignity. They are all the messenger of the Lord. They could have come in different age and in different period. They could have created a tremendous impact, like we can say is avatar. Nowadays when we hear anyone extraordinary person coming, we immediately place him into the rank of avatar. But this Abhedananda Swami and other direct disciples who came over here, they are extraordinary really spiritual people who have changed the thought process of this country. But Swami Vivekananda was so prominent and predominant that under his shining light, others, though they are bright and brighter, he didn't get a recognition much. But it is all Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna came and he brought his band of soldiers to fight the ignorance and the sufferings of the entire world. And particularly this Swami Abhedananda, he has this tremendous impact in the West, and he dedicated his life quite a long time. And if we go through his teachings and lessons, it's a wonderful exposition of the idea of the Vedanta and how it can be made most scientific and practical. His emphasis was on that side, and it created a real sensation among the scientific world and the world of illumined people with wisdom and knowledge of the university, of colleges, of different levels of scientific researches. So we remember this, and this year is also 150th birth celebration is going on about Swami Abhedananda. So it is just, his life is tremendously significant life, and we cannot find where we can start and end, but it is for you to study. And he has tremendous, huge amount of his complete works of speeches and collections and writings are available. Extraordinary insight can be received from them, and that I leave up to you to read and absorb. But this year we are celebrating his 150th year of appearance in the world. So just to cursorily go through the life of him and what he said, glimpses of few statements like that, and how his spiritual life grew as he was born in Calcutta. We find that he was born, his early name was Kali Prasad. He was born in 1866 in October 2. When was this month? Abhedananda Swami's birthday, I forgot. 24th? Oh, 24th. So it is very close. We are almost near on his birthday, we are celebrating this. So it is mother prayed to the Mother Kali to have a child. That's the uniqueness of the great souls. They are born out of prayers. So mother prayed to Mother Kali to have a child, and when the child was born, naturally his name was given Kali Prasad. Prasad means the blessings of the Divine Mother. And his father was a school teacher and very well educated, bright student. As Kali was born, a voracious reader. He learned about Shankaracharya and others, and it is by listening to the advice of his teacher, Wilson, who he asked him to read the history of India. And he, from the childhood, wanted to be a Pandit, a scholar, always studying deep philosophy and understanding the depth of all religious ideas. And he has a remarkable memory from his childhood and composed so many Sanskrit verses, hymns from the early days. When he was when he was a boy of 14, he found a book on Bhagavad Gita in his father's library, and he immediately caught it and started reading. His father, seeing that a young boy will not understand anything, took away that book from him. But Kali could find afterwards where father has kept hiding, and then he stealthily took it, and when everyone is sleeping at the midnight, then he will start his reading of the Bhagavad Gita. He didn't give up, but he stealthily, but you see the urge for learning, urge for knowing the truth and these higher spiritual truths. So this gives an indication that when everyone is sleeping in the midnight, he will then bring that Gita book and read himself and again hide somewhere else. He attended during his early days in Calcutta. There was a movement after movement came. It is called the Renaissance. So there he used to listen to the national leader, who is called Surendranath Banerjee, who was a powerful speaker. He attended to the Keshav Sen and Pratap Majumdar of the Brahmo movement. And then he also attended to the Christian evangelist, Reverend Kalicharan Banerjee. He was a Brahmin. He converted into Christianity, and he was preaching the Christian faith, the ultimate. And then there was also parallelly some Pandits. They were struggling to keep the traditional spiritual values of the Vedic religion. So he used to attend to those, and Pandit Sasodhar Tarkachudamani was one of them, the Hindu leader, who was trying to protect their religion from the onslaught of the Christian propaganda. So he gave a series of talks and lectures on the 6 systems of philosophy. So this boy attended in all those. And this capital was then vibrant because it is the capital of India then, Calcutta. It's pulsating with the religious movement and political, cultural activities during those period of 1880s. So Kali's desire to learn the scriptures, to understand the depth, was deep and profound. So he went to this Sasodhar, who is very famous, to learn from him yoga. He was very early days he wanted to be a yogi. That was his own heart's desire, to be a yogi. So he found that Patanjali's yoga will be a good subject to learn, and then he can practice it. And so he went to Shasahar to learn Patanjali's yoga, but he was so busy, he said, I have no time. Then he forwarded him to another great scholar called Kalivar, and Kalivar Vedanta, Tark Ratna. So he is a great scholar, but then he has also no time. He said, I see, if you can come before my bath, someone massages my body. So you can come and I can teach you Patanjali Yoga then. And it is really surprising that this Abhedananda, future Abhedananda, Kali Prasad, then used to come and with patience while he is questioning and he is responding, that way he learned the Patanjali's yoga from him. So that was his sincerity but his restless heart didn't get quenched anywhere till he met Sri Ramakrishna. And he, in his own language, he said, restless to find a guru who can teach me yoga. So I met Sri Ramakrishna. And then what he did, when he met, he first came to know from his friend about Ramakrishna. And he said that I am searching, can you teach me, give me any address of a real yoga teacher? I want to be a yogi. Then his friend, oh, there is a good man, great yogi. He lives in Dakshineshwar. His name is Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Why not you go there? So the boy got very excited. So he lived in Calcutta. It is only 4 miles distance. In those days, people could walk easily. So it would take at least half an hour or 1 hour maybe, or to maximum 1.5 hours. But he got inspired and he started walking from his home, and he was a young boy, so walked and then got misdirected and went to another direction in the Grand Trunk Road, the big BT Road. So BT Road he went away and far away from Dakshineshwar. Then he came back and then came and asked and then reached Dakshineshwar when somebody said he entered there and heard that Ramakrishna is not available. He has gone to Calcutta. And he got exhausted and thought, my God, I am hungry. It is 11 o'clock in the noon. From morning he is walking, young boy. Then he got exhausted and he was sitting in one corner. Then he found that another boy is also waiting in his age. His name is Shoshi. He said, I have come here, see, and Ramakrishna is gone. What shall I do? I am frustrated, I am hungry, I am thirsty. Then he said, don't worry, let us have a Ganges, deep in the Ganges, and wait for the master to come. We have come here, we should not go back. And then take Kali's prasad, and then both of them took prasad and waited. And then when Ramakrishna will come, nobody can say. Ramlal Dada was there, nephew, Ramakrishna's nephew. He met them. Then he said, don't worry, stay here till he comes back in the evening maybe. But evening went on, but he was late. And Kali was restless because he has not told his home. His parents will be worrying, where is he? And then, but Shoshi says, don't worry, I have also my parents, no? They are also worrying, but I am here. So you also stay with me. And when Ramakrishna will come, we will meet him and then go. By that time, Ramlal Dada gave some pies and farina pudding and whatever was there. And they have their supper. And after that, they are waiting on the northern porch when Ramakrishna's carriage came. And a man is coming down and intoxicated in that mood, saying, Kali, 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 Kali. And he entered into his room. And then, this is the first meeting. And Sri Ramakrishna, then he came and wanted to salute. Then Ramakrishna said, okay, you are here, stay tonight. Tomorrow morning come afterwards. So, both of them came in the next day morning, Shoshi and Kali. And when Kali went and he saluted Sri Ramakrishna, looking at him, he said, "Sir, can you teach me yoga? I want to be a yogi." So Sri Ramakrishna then looked at him. He said, Ramakrishna's own words, "You were a yogi in your previous life. A little was left for perfection. This will be your last birth. Yes, I shall teach you yoga. Rest tonight and come to me tomorrow morning again." So the boy stayed overnight, and then next morning came to Ramakrishna, and he expressed his experience, Abhedananda, in his own words. "When I was seated, he asked me to come, and then I got a seat. And when I was seated in the lotus posture, the master asked me to stick out my tongue. As soon as I did that, he wrote a mantram on it with the middle finger of his right hand and advised me to meditate on Kali, the Divine Mother. I did what he said, and what happened to him? Gradually, I lost my all outer consciousness and sat deep in meditation. And I felt an unspeakable joy within." So this is the perfect match. The seeker is seeking and got a teacher who can by touch give the transformation and experience what is called religion. So religion then becomes realization. And we find that this put his mind into deep contemplative mood. And he lost his outer consciousness, means he went into deeper state of meditation, you can call samadhi or something, but he got a glimpse of that. And Kali afterwards used to see beautiful divine visions of gods and goddesses. This is really a question. Even now we can question, is there gods or goddesses? Or it is all some mental hallucination of some few people? Where is now all the divine entities even today? Are they real? Actually, you see, Ramakrishna used to see, his disciples saw, Swami Brahmananda used to see, Vijnananda used to see. You cannot say, because you don't see, I don't see. They are all figment of the mind. You cannot say that. So he used to see that. And one day, he had a beautiful experience, and that also gave him a deep insight about spirituality, Ramakrishna, and the appearance, advent, meaning of Ramakrishna's advent. That's a very profound experience. So one day he found that this mind was just expanded into the infinite consciousness, formless reality, and in there he found that there is a divine effulgent form of Ramakrishna. And then he found that different divine incarnations like Krishna, Christ, Sri Chaitanya, and all other divine forms started arising from the ocean of consciousness. And they are all merging one by one into the body of Ramakrishna. And that created a deep, tremendous change in his mind. And he had this experience of the luminous form of Sri Ramakrishna and all the divine incarnations coming up from the ocean of that consciousness, and then merging into the body of Sri Ramakrishna. And Kali, then he hastened to meet Sri Ramakrishna. It happened in his home when he was meditating. And when he came to Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar and narrated his vision, then Sri Ramakrishna said, beautiful, he said, you have seen then Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha means the abode of the Lord Vishnu. He said, Ramakrishna continued, henceforth you will no longer have the visions. You have risen to the formless state. We don't understand the meaning of these words. But the word is that, what Ramakrishna said, you have seen Vaikuntha, henceforth you will no longer have the vision. You have risen to the formless state. From then on, the Kali's mind, Kali means the Abhedananda, his mind was absorbed in the infinite, the Vedantas of the impersonal Brahman, rather than the divine form. And Kali was also convinced in this vision that the Master was the incarnation in which is the sum, all the different incarnations merged together. That means that's the harmony, the same God comes again and again. That conviction came in his mind. So we find that, and then Sri Ramakrishna, under Sri Ramakrishna, still they did tremendous spiritual practices. And then we find that after that Sri Ramakrishna passed away, that story you know, and Swami Vivekananda, young Naren, collected all the friends together, and then they gathered in the Baranagar monastery, and there they started great austerity and spiritual practices. But it is surprising that even in that spiritual practices, he was mostly engrossed into the study of the scriptures. And that is the point, that getting too engrossed into it, even there was some story like that, everyone complains in a group living, is it not? If someone is very engrossed in reading books and others are doing chore works, no? Cooking, cleaning and all these things, what will be the reaction? So everyone complains that he does not do, Kali does not do anything. He is always studying the scripture day and night, reading. It is Kali Tapassi's room. That room was only for his books around. So then one day, it was complained to Naren. And then Naren said, why are you troubling him? Let one brother keep himself engaged in day and night studying the Vedanta. What is the wrong in it? Give me, what is your work? I shall do it for you. So scrubbing the pots and pans, I will do for you. So then onward, he got freedom to engage in studying more intensely. And we find that he, then afterwards, he was building up his spiritual life strength, and then went to Alum Bazar Mount, another shifted nearby place. All the monastics moved there. And then in between, of course, he went to the pilgrimage, from walking from one place to another, wandering monk, as all the direct disciples did. So Kali and others then are all deeply absorbed in meditation and in spiritual life. And then ultimately they didn't know that Swami Vivekananda had a wonderful success in this country. Because they saw that Vivekananda, they didn't know who is Vivekananda. Because Vivekananda's previous name was Vividishananda before. And that name they know by Vividishananda. Last, the direct disciples knew it was Vividishananda, but he has become Vivekananda, who knows. So, but when they came to know, and Swamiji was facing, they are very excited with Swamiji's success. And then, the Swami Vivekananda's life was not very peaceful here. The evangelists and the orthodox people were after him. Even the Brahmo leaders were saying that Pratap Majumdar and other went against Swami Vivekananda to say, oh, he is a ruffian in Calcutta streets and he has become a leader here in your country. Well, how he resembles Hinduism, what he knows about Hinduism. So all these things created a big turmoil in this country, and in newspaper, it was reflecting in the newspaper. So Swamiji wanted that let there be one meeting in Calcutta so that the great people of the society should say, no, he represents us. So that in that meeting to organize, Kali took a great role, and make the meeting successful, and that paper came in this country. So Kali then was exhausted, and then again with this organizing this event along with others, and then he wanted to rest, so he went to Nainital and Almora, Himalayan peaks, and after a few months taking rest and meditating there more deeply, he came back. Now it turned, his life is very what you call engaging life. What happened? He's traveled barefooted all over India from 1888 to 1895, about 7 years. Then when Swami Vivekananda have this work in the West going on, and he called Swami Abhedananda to come to the West. And he invited him to come first to London. And in 1896 he appeared. And so it was that when he appeared there as a speaker, and the first in his life, that was in Christo Theosophical Society in Bloomsbury Square in London. That was in 27th of October 1896. He was very nervous. And he does not want to stand and give talk. But Swami Vivekananda gave him inspiration and said that depend on the Master, who has ever given me strength and courage in all the trials of my life. So trust on that and speak his words. And he also suggested that out of the fullness of the heart the mouth speaketh. Be like that. Let your heart be filled with the higher thoughts and ideals, and it will. And this Kali's maiden speech before the learned audience of that Christo Theosophical Society, Bloomsbury Square in London, became a great success. And Swami Vivekananda remarked, a famous remark of Swami Vivekananda. He said, even if I perish on this plain, my message will be sounded through these dear lips, and the whole world will hear it. That was, Swamiji were very satisfied that this same ancient wisdom of the Vedanta is to be propagated for the good of humanity. And Kali has become a nice instrument for that purpose. And when Abhedananda, in this way, when he began his work there, he became acquainted with many distinguished savants, including Professor Max Muller, Professor Paul Deussen, and his eloquence, his lucid exposition of Vedanta philosophy and depth of spiritual experience made him a profound speaker, and it impressed his audience. But after that, he moved all over the world in such intensity. It is really to keep track of his journey. I was seeing that he went where he didn't go in this country and in Mexico, in every place. I understand now it is easy. You can take a flight and go here and there and here and there. But in those days, which is 1896, 97, it is what a tremendous work. He crossed the Atlantic. Then Swamiji asked him, Sarvadevananda Swami was working. He wanted him back for India work. And he asked Abhedananda Swami to come to America. So he crossed the Atlantic, landed in New York, and took the charge of the Vedanta Society in 1897. And that was the center where Swami Vivekananda founded in 1894. But he began the course of his lectures in the Mott Memorial Hall, New York. Then became acquainted with Professor William James, Reverend Newton, and other great people of the time. I will get a little idea about them and we find that he is and entering into New America, an American work. Then he moved so many places. And he didn't confine his activity in New York City only, but covered Philadelphia, Washington, Virginia, New Paltz, Boston, Cambridge, Montclair, and many places all around. So, and we read from Swami Chetanananda some pages that will be very revealing and interesting to know what he has done and what his speeches impacted the people. We find that Vedanta Society of New York is moving from one place to another, and then it is said that the libel and slander, censure and criticism are the ornaments of those who pave the way for the truth. So, when Swami Abhedananda was speaking boldly about Vedanta, the attacks from backbiters, fault finders, make a pioneering soul more strongly determined. When Abhedananda became popular in New York, some Christian missionaries could not bear it. Out of jealousy, some fabricated scandalous stories to defame the Swami's character. But undaunted, Abhedananda paid them no heed. He continued to work with his usual vigor and sang-froid. Abhedananda later told his disciples how he faced the trials and tribulations in his life. Everyone will have to face this if you want to do a great job. But it was Swami Vivekananda faced much more, but Abhedananda no less. And he said that it is a lesson for all of us. What he said, Abhedananda Swami said, that when I was in America, I would try to forget my sorrows and sufferings by singing or praying to the Master. I would spend my time practicing japam and meditation. So I lived in my own world. If a person upholds the truth, he encounters more obstacles. But one should never give up the truth. One should hold the post of God, post means God, with might and main. Don't you see how I have confronted the storms of obstacles? I do not care even if the whole world stands against me. I am holding on to the Master. So that is the strength of spiritual teachers. And he himself faced those challenges, and he suggested that others should be bold enough to carry on the message of the eternal truth. We find that Abhedananda went to the Vedanta students, and on January 12, Abhedananda saw Sarvadevananda off because Sarvadevananda was called back for Indian work. Mrs. Oli Bull, Miss Josephine MacLeod, they all greeted Sarvadevananda and off to go back to India. Then on 25th of January, Abhedananda was invited for dinner by Reverend Heber Newton, a nationally well-known minister of All Souls Episcopal Church in New York. Reverend Newton was a liberal and powerful man and was attracted to the universal message of the Vedanta and Indian philosophies. They became good friends, and Reverend Newton often sent his followers to listen to Swami Abhedananda. The impact that I am trying to impress, that what he created, that impact. And we find that Mrs. Leggett, as she used to do, introduced Abhedananda to different people. So Dr. Elmer Gates, who was he? He was a famous scientist and psychologist who was then doing research on the relationship between physical science and mental science. Dr. Gates was impressed when he spoke to Abhedananda about Raja Yoga, which he considered to be very rational and scientific. He invited Abhedananda to his laboratory in Chevy Chase near Washington, D.C. During Swami's summer recess in May, he went to Dr. Gates' house and stayed a couple of days with him. He always gave a few talks. Abhedananda expressed a wish to meet the President of the United States. Mr. Urgin, a member of the House of Representatives, arranged his meeting with President McKinley on May 1898. The President received Abhedananda cordially and inquired about the Vedanta movement in the United States and also British rules in India. Abhedananda also met John G. Brady, the governor of Alaska, who invited him to visit Alaska during summer. So we find that he is meeting the people in the top level of the society, and impact of that goes far more than ordinary level of talk. So from Washington DC, Abhedananda went to Cambridge, Massachusetts to attend the Cambridge conference on invitation of Dr. Louis G. Janes. He stayed with Dr. Janes at home of Mrs. Olibull. Abhedananda stayed nearly a month in Cambridge and Boston, where he met several famous intellectuals such as Professor Lanman Royce Taylor, William James, who is the author of the Varieties of Religious Experiences and Pragmatism. And Professor James invited Abhedananda to speak in his house on unity in variety. A discussion followed for 4 hours, and at last Professor James conceded the validity of the monastic philosophy. This is a big achievement, you can say. The discussion is going on, and William James is ultimately saying that after 4 hours of discussion with Abhedananda, the Professor James conceded the validity of the monastic philosophy. In 1898, Abhedananda said in his lecture, The Ideal of Vedanta and How to Attain, just to give a little view what Swami Abhedananda is to preach. He said, the ideal of Vedanta is to solve the problem of life, to point out the aim of human existence, to make our ways of living better and more harmonious with the universal will that is working in the nature, to make us realize that the will which is now working through our bodies is in reality a part and parcel of the universal will. Its ideal is to show us how we can live in this world without being overcome by sorrows and misery, without being afflicted by suffering and misfortunes that are sure to fall on every human being in some way or other. How to conquer death in this life, how we can embrace death without being frightened in the least. And above all, the chief objective of Vedanta is to make us live in the life of unselfishness, purity, and attain to perfection in this very life. The mission of Vedanta is to establish the oneness and to bring harmony, peace, tolerance amongst different religions, sects, creeds, and denominations that exist in the world. We all know this truth, but the way he presents and how it is rationally accepted by the great people of that time is very important. He continued in another place. Abhedananda lectured before the Outlook Club, a women's group in the Lynn, Massachusetts, and tried to remove a misunderstanding about the position of women in India. And in that response, what he said, a few lines, as truth is the goal of all science and philosophy, so the same truth is the goal of Vedanta. Modern science has discovered nothing that opposes the conclusions of the Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta is a philosophy and a religion at the same time. It recognizes each of the different stages, such as dualistic, qualified non-dualistic, and non-dualistic. In short, it is the universal religion. It embraces Christianity and points out its fundamental basis. It recognizes Jesus as the Son of God. Professor Max Muller, he quoted in his speech, says, Vedanta is the most sublime of all philosophies and the most comforting of all religions. It has room for almost every religion, nay, it embraces them all. So, this is the way he presented that misunderstanding about the ancient wisdom of India. And we find that different in New York Herald. 4 weeks in Greenacre, and Abhedananda returned then to New York, and in New York Herald reported on his Abhedananda's message that every Saturday afternoon a class of young boys and girls gathers together in the room of the Vedanta Society in East 55th Street to speak an hour or so with Swami Abhedananda and drink in the teachings of the Hindu philosophy, which is expounded to them in the most fascinating way, and see the impact. The young people came in with beaming, expecting faces and draw their chairs around the handsome oriental figure of the Swami, who sits in the circle wearing a robe of rich red and holding in his hand an ancient Sanskrit book, Hitopadesha, or Book of Good Counsels. The book is one of the oldest pieces of literature in the world. It dates back to the 13th century BC and is the source of all fables and animals. And he said that how these young people were attracted to the message of Swami Abhedananda. And here is a Abhedananda Swami, when he was speaking, our Gurudas Maharaj, Swami Atulananda, he listened to him. And he has his experience mentioned in the book, in his note. He says that when Vivekananda returned to America for the second time with Turiyananda on 28th August, Abhedananda was again busy with the Greenacre conference. Vivekananda and Turiyananda went to Mr. Leggett's country home and reached there. And then they met Abhedananda. And then they went together. In 1901 onwards, Abhedananda's audience increased to 600, and the number of students in his yoga class increased so much that he had to give the classes twice a day. To accommodate the overflowing audience, the society then rented Carnegie Lyceum for Abhedananda's lecture. And what he said in some lectures in 1901, Swami Abhedananda, it has New York Sun described Swami Abhedananda's lecture given on first Sunday of 1901. It says, Swami Abhedananda lectured in the Carnegie Lyceum yesterday afternoon on religious need of the 20th century. He spoke of turning the molecules of the brain. See how he approaches the subject. He's talking about meditation. But in those days, in 1901, he's speaking in this term, language. He says, he spoke of turning the molecules of the brain cells to harmonize with the vibration of the cosmic mind, and so gaining power. And he said that the mind and the matter are not dual entities, but the subjective and the objective manifestation of the unknown. It's a master statement. See how we can tune our mind, this little mind, in the molecules of the brain, it will be to harmonize with the vibration of the cosmic mind, and so gaining some power from the cosmic reality. And he said that the mind and matter are not dual entities, but the subjective and the objective manifestation of the unknown. The 20th century needs a religion. He's now 20th, now it is 21st. But in his time he says 20th century. He said, with no scheme for salvation, no need for heaven or hell, no fear of eternal punishment. The 20th century needs a religion free from sacerdotal institution. His language is very, vocabulary is very, you have to find a dictionary sometimes. Institutions, and free from all books, scriptures and personalities. The 20th century needs a religion with a concept of God, not personal, not impersonal, not personal, not impersonal, but beyond both. A God whose supreme aspect will harmonize with the ultimate reality of the universe. The 20th century religion must accept the ultimate conclusions of all the philosophies of the world. So see how the message of the harmony has been given all over. And then we find that that he is moving from one place to another. Just to mention some places, I am just reading some in all the different places scattered. So I am just mentioning the places what he visited and talked and influenced. Buffalo, in the New York City for Buffalo, New York, and then went to the Cleveland. He went to Cleveland. I didn't know that I went visited recently Cleveland. Cleveland, then Chicago, San Francisco, of course, those are Shanti Ashram. He came, Berkeley he came to Los Angeles, and then Yosemite, and then Salt Lake City, Colorado Springs, to Toronto, then Thousand Island, Glasgow, and then he went back to Europe again, and he included Liverpool, England, Glasgow, Scotland. Then Abhedananda crossed the English Channel, and then extensively in France and Switzerland, Italy, Belgium, we find that, and St. Louis, Holland. If we go on like that, we'll find that there is no place left really. He said that Alaska to Moscow, he went. Alaska, and in Alaska, they were Governor Brady's guest. The governor's sister showed them the deserted homes of the Native Americans, etc. So we find that what he did. I'll end with this quote. What he says, on Tuesday, during the fall, he lectured at the Brooklyn Institute of Arts and Science on India and her people. And on Sunday, in New York, he gave a lecture on series on the great saviors of the world. And in this series, he pointed out what a great message. If we cannot recognize the divinity of the prophets of other nations in the saviors of others' people, then we have not realized the divinity of our own prophet and have not understood the eternal truth of unity of divine being under the variety of names and forms. If a mother cannot recognize her son when he changes the color of his garment or puts on the dress of a foreigner, I am sure that she is not a true mother. Similarly, I am sure that the Christian who sees divinity in Christ alone and does not recognize his own master when he comes in the form of Buddha or Krishna does not realize the divinity of Jesus Christ. All these prophets, these messengers of God are great. Each one was commissioned by the Almighty to deliver His message. Each one of them was glorious Son of God, a perfected soul manifested for the good of humanity to establish righteousness and to destroy evil. So this is the wonderful message, how in so many ways trying to put into the psyche of the people of the world that there is only one truth by diverse ways what Ramakrishna brought, and this harmony and peace in the world. His life is very, as I said, that his life is always very moving from one place to another, and he delivered so many addresses here and there, and then ultimately he went back to India, and then he established an organization which is called the Vedanta. That's the name it, Vedanta, what is the name? Ramakrishna Vedanta Math. But he was also the vice president of our Ramakrishna order. He crossed the Atlantic for 17 times. Was appreciated very much for his profundity of scholarship, intellectual brilliance, oratorial talents, charming personality, and his nobility of character. A short visit to India in 1906, then he returned again to America. a teacher of spiritual truth and yogic practices in peace retreat in Berkshire Hills. He trained and taught hundreds of earnest seekers of truth, came back to India again at last in 1921. On his way home, he joined the educational conference in Honolulu, visited Japan, China, Philippines, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Rangoon, became the vice president of the Ramakrishna mission during 1922 to 1925, started a long tour and went as far as Tibet, visited all the important places of the northern India, reached the Belur Math, 1923, established the center at Calcutta and Darjeeling, presided over the Parliament of Religions, held at the Town Hall in Calcutta in 1937, founded the Ramakrishna Vedanta Math, Calcutta, and he left his mortal frame on September 8, 1939. It's a great life. Om Jaganmatri Kipalabdha Kanthasrita Saraswatim Dhyayed Jnana Parang Siddhyam Abhedananda Sangakam Bhakkhana Kushalang Bande Sarva Vedanta Bodhakam Kali Tapassinang Pujyam Abhedananda Swaminam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.